All right, it's go time. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Dispatches from the Field, an exciting new initiative from the Explorers Club designed to highlight the incredible work of our members and better pull our global community together on this amazing digital platform. If you are new here, let me explain a little bit about what to expect. We're going to kick it off with a featured speaker. You're definitely in for a treat today. After the featured speaker, we're going to go into what we call campfire sessions, where we break out into groups and you get the opportunity to meet, connect, make new friends, meet new colleagues, start new expeditions. Who knows whatever happens in the campfire sessions. And then we exchange information and we head out for the day. So, with that, drum roll, allow me to introduce our featured speaker for today. Please join me in welcoming Duda Menegassi, a Brazilian environmental journalist, an EC50 2025 honoree that has for more than a decade brought to light untold stories of biodiversity and the scientists and environmentalists working to protect it. Her work spans words, photos, film, from publishing a book on her 400-kilometer journey through Brazil's protected area to reporting from the Galápagos as a Darwin Leader. In 2023, she was honored with the AAAK Kavli Science Journalism Award for Excellence in Science Reporting. And we know how important the science reporters are. Duda continues to give voice to the natural world and the people working tirelessly to defend it. Duda, take it away.
Thank you, Brandy. Thank you for that kind introduction. And hello to everyone watching. It's so nice to have this opportunity to be joining Dispatch from the Field. I mean, as Brandy said, I just recently joined the Explorers Club as in the class of 2025. And I was in ECAD. I see Serena here. She's a fellow from this class of 2025. Not sure about the rest of you if we had the chance to meet. So this is a great opportunity for me to actually connect with other fellows, and I'm super excited. It's not going to be a boring presentation, I swear. It's just some photos. I'm just going to share my screen really quick here, because I think it just gets more visual. Okay, so as Brandy already said, I'm an environmental journalist, and I write for OECO, which is an independent vehicle from Brazil that's specialized in covering news about the environment. And I just left the link there because, I mean, of course, we're in Brazil, so we do mostly Portuguese stories, but we also have some stories that we translate into English. So I invite you if you want to follow that. And this story I'm going to tell you today, this is one, I mean, it was recently published and we will have it in English. So just keep your eyes out for that one. And okay, so here, if you look at this area, and I want to put this picture, because if you look at this, you're seeing amazing Brazilian rainforest and no deforestation, nothing looks wrong. I mean, and if I tell you that within this area lives a species of monkey that will disappear most likely in the next 25, 30 years, would you believe me? and that's the story I was pursuing in my last field trip to the Amazon. And it's actually this story, I mean, it's a sad story. Okay, I'll give you, of course, I told you about the extinction, so no spoilers there. But also, it's the type of story that has the power, and for me as a journalist, to make people see more clearly the connection between the climate crisis and the biodiversity loss crisis, which is so hard to do as a journalist. Because although the Anthropocene, it's coming harder and harder in front of us, it's not something so, if you tell like, okay, so this species is suffering from deforestation, you can see that. If you tell a species is suffering from poaching, you can see that. If you tell a species is suffering from disease, from invasive, fighting with invasive species, and so on. You can see that. But if you're talking about climate change, it just gets blurred, it's not really that. You have the extreme events, and that's really, that makes an impact. But despite that, you don't really see it because it's happening there. Not that slowly, because we're making sure to go faster and faster, but slow for our understanding. And so that's why, and allow me to do that without problems of conscience. I got so excited about this tragic story that I'm about to tell you. Because this little monkey here, which is called, well, the common name, it's black squirrel monkey, and the scientific name is Saimiri vanzolini. That's a very small monkey that belongs to that gender Saimiri, which has dozens of species in Brazil, different regions, mostly Amazon, even outside of Brazil, but anyway. And the big difference of this guy, biggest difference you can tell by looking at is the black head, which is like most of the other species have more like a brown, yellowish fur, which is like the rest of his body. And this is the only one with that black head, so it makes it easier to distinguish. But that's not the biggest particularity of this species. This species lives in flooded areas, in the lowland flooded areas. So this is a picture right now from my field expedition in May. May in the Amazon, well, in that part of Amazon is the peak of the flood. So it's just, so this is just like the peak of it. It shifts like 11 meters, which is crazy to think about. It goes from that level to 11 meters down. But because it's a lowland forest, it remains floated for longer. So it's a very tricky habitat, and not many species thrive in it. So you have specific tree species, specific plants, and specific animals. And there where Saimiri vanzolini, the black squirrel monkey, fits in. So this species evolved to survive in this little area. And when I say small, it's really small. It's like 870 kilometers square, which is, I Googled that to make it easier, like a reference. It's less than 4 times smaller than Rhode Island, which is the smaller state in the US. So I think, I don't know if that gives a better idea, but that's really tiny, especially if you're talking about the Amazon, which is huge. And most monkeys have wider distributions. And this species, it's like living in those 3 river islands. It's along 2 main rivers, Solimões and Japurá. And this area is like flooded most of the time, even during the droughts, like the regular droughts, they still retain some water, like, kind of like swamp kind of it. And the monkey survives there and lives on the fruits, on insects. And well, okay, so here's just a little video so you to see. So, it survives there, it's doing well, no poaching, no illegal trafficking, nothing. But there's the thing, when you see that, you don't, like, oh, it's thriving. But those flooded areas, they have a very close relation with water. So, as the name says itself, so rain, the cycle of rain that dictates how the river goes up, how the river goes down. And for hundreds, millions of years, this habitat evolved into that same pattern of going up, going down. Sometimes there's a year that goes up higher than expected, the others a little lower, but within the range. And then comes climate change to mess it up. And this is an example of Solimões River, which is one of the main rivers that surround the 3 islands that the species live in. And this is during this last flooded season, which is where when I was there. And this is last year. This is a severe drought for the 2nd consecutive year that hit the region. And I don't know what you think when you think of floating and drought, but this is not normal. This is super extreme. You have no water in one of the main rivers in Amazon. So this river, for just for reference, is the one that feeds on to become the Amazon River, which is the longest, the biggest we have in Brazil. And this is how it was in 2024 during an episode of, not an episode, during a severe drought. And it was even worse because on the previous year, 2023, we had also a severe drought. So you're having those extreme events more and more frequent. And I don't know how things are going to be in this dry season, for instance, but if we have another drought season, then, you know, the plants, they start to stress out because they are used to that rhythm of, you know, floating and going down to a certain time, to a certain level. And when this starts to happen, the plant, it affects the reproduction of plants, which in plant terms, it's the fruits, which is main part of the diet of the black squirrel monkey. And affecting the plants, you also affect the insects that depends on those plants, and they're also a main part of the black squirrel monkey's diet. And you also have the temperatures rising, which also affect the species. You have no water availability for the species could dry like thirsty or something like that. So, and it's not only the drought. I mean, even the flooded. If you have like, and we just had, not in this part of Amazon, because Amazon is it's huge, but in another part of Amazon, we just had a historical flooding, like way above the levels. And that also affects the plants because they go up and down a certain level, but if you go way too up or way lower, either way, if you leave that balance, it just affects their fructification, it just affects their survival rates, and then you affect all the other species. And I show you Cymede vanzolini, but that affects whole different animals, like this little guy, which I wanted to show you because it's so emblematic. Because look at his face; he has a red face. That's not very typical in the animal kingdom. And I must add, this redness is from the blood running within the skin. It's like thick as a very thin skin, and it's just if you kill one, the face will be, faded off. You're not going to be red like this. This is blood, which is crazy. This is Wakari. I didn't say the name. This is white Wakari. And it's another species that depends on flooded forests, with the difference that it has a little bigger range than Cymede vanzolini, the black squirrel monkey, because it's not only in the lowlands and not only in tree islands like vanzolini, it has a bigger distribution. But still, it's another species that might be severely, it's already in danger. It might be severely like threatened or even going extinct alongside vanzolini in the next decades. And the thing with vanzolini, and which surprised me a lot when I went to the field, because I'm used to going in the field after threatened species, and usually they're hard to find. You go there and sometimes 2-3 days, sometimes to find it, sometimes you don't find it at all, because they're threatened and they are in the wild, so never know. But we went with the canoe like on the first day, and we got into the jungle for like 15-20 minutes, and then the researcher that I was alongside with, she was like, this is vanzolini. And then we waited a few minutes, and there it was, like a group. I saw at least like 4 passing by. With her trained eyes and ears, she said it was even more. The groups go from 50 to 200, so you can imagine. And there it was. And then we saw multiple groups on the same day. It wasn't hard at all. The species is abundant, which is crazy. That hit me, because I'm usually, when I'm talking about threatened species, I'm always thinking about like small populations and they're struggling. But this species is like, she found its habitat She managed to survive there where no other Saimiri lives. And the funny thing is, like, you have those 3 islands for Saimiri, Vanzolini, and then right on the border to one side of one of the rivers, you have another species of Saimiri vanzolini, which is a way bigger distribution, like 400 times bigger. And the other side, you also have another Saimiri species. So this is the very tiny space that species found to survive, I mean, and evolved to those conditions, which is what makes it so vulnerable. But still, you go there and you see it's abundant, and you go like, and I'm sorry about the bad word, Brandy, but shit, climate change, I'll say another one now, it's a bitch. Look at that. That population I mean, it found its habitat, it's here, it's abundant, and it might disappear on the next 30 years because of climate change. And I say 30 years, not out of my mind. The scientists made some climate modelings with the IPCC reports, like seeing the climate scenarios and seeing all the environmental needs of the black squirrel monkey. And they crossed that out to project how those are going to look like in 2050 and 2070. And the optimistic scenario, which means the scenario where the countries will reduce their greenhouse emissions, still in 2050, the species will lose 99.8% of the suitability of its habitat, of its current habitat. And if you look at the pessimist scenario, which is funny, like by 2050, the things are kind of like better. It's like 92.5% a loss on the habitat, but then it goes to 2070, and then you have 100% gone. No habitat suitability for the species. And then the scientists also did something to see, like, okay, so there are other areas around where the species could migrate maybe, and there are some areas that might gain, like that might be adequate, suitable for the species in the future, a little west from the current location. But the problem is you already have a Saimiri species there. So what do we do? Like, should we intervene as God? Like, okay, I'll take you and put you there. And even if you do so, you have no guarantee the species will survive, because they will be competing for resources with the species that is like has a way bigger distribution, and most likely a bigger adaptability to different situations, a bigger capability of surviving different situations. So this monkey you see here, guys, is most likely doomed to extinction. Not much we can do, because and this is, I was talking with the researcher, and this is, so here's a little bit of the backstage of the field, and you see that that researcher with the little note writing it out, she's doing like a little quick inventory of primates in this area, which is a protected area, and it's a sustainable development reserve of Mamirawa. And she's like, I was interviewing her, and she was like, I feel so powerless, because as a scientist, I mean, there's nothing I can do. I just feel that I'm documenting the end for this species. And I felt that. I mean, I've been talking with researchers, scientists in Brazil for a long time during this my work as a journalist, and I think I've never felt, because I mean, you know, in US now more than ever, doing science is hard, and often, you know, you see them like a little like blue and all, but I've never seen like someone so powerless. And indeed, like, what can you do? I mean, even if you put them in captivity, so it would just survive in captivity, so we just can, you know, have it, but not in the wild. So anyway, so this is a story. I don't know how long that was. I feel like I talked for a long time. I don't know if that was that long, but so I just want to quickly say, because this is going on YouTube later on, so maybe they'll see, just huge thanks to Miguel Monteiro, which is the photographer you see here in the canoe with me, and Eziel, which was the field assistant. And the photographer here is the responsible for most of the beautiful images I've shown you. My camera and my photographing skills are not that good. And Anamelia, which is the researcher, also like helped me a lot. She was the one that went with me on the field to follow the species and to understand better this story. And this story just came out, as I said, in Portuguese, and it will be soon translated in English, so you can all read it. I invite you to read it, because here I just did a pocket version of it, kind of. Hope I did it okay to give it like a big introduction of situation of the species. And now it's like, as a journalist, I feel that, and that's why I was so excited to come here and tell this story, because I think that's such a powerful story to talk about climate change and biodiversity loss, because it's hard to make that connection. And here you have it, a species that's not threatened by deforestation, by poaching, illegal trafficking, nothing. And still, it might be gone by 2050 because of climate change. So I'm sorry to give you the bad news, I mean, it's yeah, well, we can have a fun talk. I mean, I don't mean to be, you know, all the carrier of the bad news, but you know, it's true and it's needed. And yeah, and I'll love to talk with you about it more. And you know, yeah, let's campfire. I don't know.
Duda, thank you so much for sharing this story. You know, we spoke briefly before we actually kicked off this particular session about how important it is to balance tragic stories that keep coming up continually in the face of climate change with stories of hope. And hopefully, this may be a story of resilience and adaptation within that. My immediate question to you, as an environmental journalist, do you find it is really impactful and that to be able to really harness an individual story like that of the black squirrel monkey, do you find that that gets more public appeal and understanding and compassion to what the situation is?
Yeah, absolutely. I'll just stop sharing my screen, or do you want to keep seeing the pictures? Should I stop sharing?
I think we could stop sharing.
Okay.
Well, look
So
at you.
yeah, huh. So yeah, I mean, absolutely. I find that having a character, it just makes a story so much more powerful, because if you're talking numbers, it's hard to people to connect with numbers. If I say, okay, the world is doomed because even like with climate change, like the temperature just is above 1.5 Celsius, and then people, you know, okay, don't see it from my window. What was it? You know, and if you have like, especially if you have a charismatic species of animals are easier than plants. Don't get me wrong, if there are any botanic here, I love plants, but with animals it's a little easier, especially if you're talking about a monkey, which you have this little empathy from, you know, same primates, top primate from primate. But and I do feel that like when I get to tell a story that I have an impact, a strong character to per to embody this story, it just makes it, first, easier to tell, I think, and second, more engaging to people, because then suddenly they have that connection, even if they never saw it, like if they've never met, they never heard of the species, but you have it, a first reaction. Like I've heard that, I mean, the story just came out and I've heard it from different people, like, oh no, but it's so cute. No, and because it's that. I mean, you give a face to the biodiversity loss instead of saying 80% of the species might disappear. I don't know. I just made I faked the number. Don't quote me on that. But anyway, so instead of doing that, because that's, I mean, and those numbers are important because this gives dimension to the whole thing. But I honestly think that having a species, like the same way they do in conservation, you have flagship species. It's just like same thing. I think it makes it more powerful.
Just like a picture is worth a thousand words, that the drought image that you shared really drives the impact of that home too. I'm sure everyone has questions. So Duda, thank you. Thank you so much for doing the amazing work of sharing these stories and making sure that you're really expressing the realities of what's going on in the field and what the impact of climate change is really going to be and what's at stake. So at this point, we will automatically shuffle out into the campfire sessions. Hang tight, Duda will be shuffled into each one of your rooms so that if you have these pending questions, you'll have the opportunity to ask her as well. And with that, we'll see you after the campfire.